Well, good afternoon. Today I want to talk about just the idea of respecting your spouse. Now, it seems like a pretty simple thing, especially when you first get married. You think, oh, I'll love them for forever. Sometimes though, when we get married, we bring in ideas about, I'm going to change them, I'm going to fix them, that kind of idea. Or maybe it's just throughout the process of your marriage, you're not very impressed with how the person has acted or handled themselves or whatever. Whatever it is. It's a lot harder to respect your spouse than it is at first. Um, Maybe it's because of the lack of sex. Maybe it's because of situations that come up. Maybe it's because of your own problems you got going on in your life. It can really be for a lot of different things. But especially as you get the longer you're married, the easier it is to stop respecting your spouse. You start saying snide things. You start treating them kind of. Uh, douche, for lack of a better word. And there's just a lot of different things at play there, and I don't really want to look at that so much as the idea of respecting your spouse in their profession. So first off, I want to give special attention to if your spouse is a housekeeper, the homekeeper, whatever you want to call it, refuse to see your stay-at-home spouse as the housekeeper. That's the first thing. Like, sometimes we kind of, what that does in our mind is it does something like this. They are the butler, the servant, the housekeeping. It does something in our minds. So basically, that's their job. My job is to go to work. Their job is to make sure this house is perfect and spotless all the time. And if you don't do this, fantastic. But maybe ask your spouse if you do it rather than just assuming that you don't. Just throwing that out there. So refuse to see your spouse as, oh, they're lesser. It's their job anyways. It's like I was watching this episode of American Dad, and the husband, the father, the Stan, is getting ready to go to work, and so he just throws his crumbs and juice and stuff in the bed, and he says, you're doing laundry anyways, right? And then he's all running. He's like, oh, I gotta go poop. You're gonna clean the floors later anyways. And I probably butchered the scene, but you get the point. You kind of gets this idea where I don't have to hang my jacket up. When I get home, I don't have to put my shoes up. I can act like an infant because my spouse has to do it. And you're probably thinking at this point, oh, so you're the one who stays at home. Actually, no, I am not the one who stays at home. I just did some serious thinking about this. The idea of oh, well, it's my wife's job to do that. And it's like, well, here's the thing with divvying up the load, okay, is it doesn't work like that because people are not really machines. And so if you have this idea of, oh, that's their job, and this is my job, I'm doing my job, so you do your job, you're not really focused on contributing to your spouse. You're not really focused on strengthening them. You're not really focused on helping them. You're focused on, well, I'm doing my part of the job. Well, marriage is never going to be 50-50. You give everything, and then when that's up, you keep on giving, and then when you have nothing else to give, you still give. It's just something that's the way it goes. You don't have to always like it, but I mean, that's the way it is anyways. um, so here's just a couple good examples. It's both of your house, okay? So who should help around the house? Well, both of you. It's both of your house. It's both of your laundry. It's both of your dishes. So I hope that kind of helps you see, it's a little bit bigger than just me. Um, the thing about marriage is that you are companions. You're meant to help each other. Maybe it's her dish day, or maybe the dishes are her chore or whatever. You each have your thing, which I hope you do. Um, Here's the thing: is she overburdened? Does she have too many chores? Is something come up that kind of maybe is making her unable to do her part? If so, you should be more concerned about helping her than getting the chore done. I just want to kind of say that again. You should be more concerned about building your spouse up and encouraging them and helping them to survive than you should about the chore being done. Yes, I understand that, dishes got to get done, and food's got to get made. I get that. I get that. I also get that you're probably busy. You probably don't have a whole lot of time. I get that. But remember that marriage isn't about you. So if you have to pick between your spouse being happy and healthy and you having the house the way you want, always pick your spouse. Always pick your spouse. Because you are companions, you're meant to be working together. I want to encourage you, volunteer for a fire department. Start a band, join a team like a sport, and then you'll realize that you aren't a one-person show. It's not all about you. And your spouse is not there to revolve their whole world around babysitting you. It's something where working as a team involves, we can do this, not get out of my way so I can. You're not pulling your weight. This isn't group talk. This isn't how you build morale. This isn't how you get anything done. That's how you tear people down. That's how you make them feel like crap. That's how you build into the prideful idea that you are somehow better than your spouse. And these are things that you really want to watch out for, because that kind of an attitude can't create a healthy marriage. See, things only exist in an environment that allows them to exist. Are you allowing there to be just complaining and nagging and nastiness? Or are you creating an environment that doesn't allow room for divorce, that doesn't allow room for people getting discouraged? Whatever is allowed to exist will exist. That's the way it is. Support and encourage each other, because most of the battle of marriage is in strengthening each other. It's not the disagreements. It's not, the little irritating things. Yes, those things need to be dealt with. But the majority of your marriage is going to be focused on building up your spouse, not winning the arguments. If you're focusing on winning arguments and keeping your spouse in line and making your marriage is doomed. You need to change. Oh, well, this is just who I am. Well, you need to change. Well, I have to have things just a certain way. Well, then change. I'm OCD. I'm a perfectionist myself. You might notice that my office looks really nice and clean and everything's in order. That's because it's my office. It's my workspace. In the house, it's not like that. Why? Because we have 5 kids. My wife is crazy busy. And, I try to do my part in everything, but there's obviously going to be a good chunk of time that I'm not able to help because I'm working. But the idea is this. Sometimes we get this idea that when I get out from work, I can go home and relax. And then the other spouse doesn't get that. Well, that's not fair. I have to go to... Marriage isn't fair. It's not fair that your wife should allow you to have sex if she's not in the mood. But oftentimes she will anyways. It's not fair that your wife asks you to change the baby's diaper when you have work in the morning and it takes you forever to go to sleep. That's not fair either. But things in life are not always going to be fair. Marriage is not about fair. Marriage is about helping each other, being there together. So every time you start feeling yourself come up to I need to watch out for me, kill that and instead say, how can I help my spouse? How can I be there for them? Well, I didn't do anything. They're just being mean and hateful and rude, and why are they doing that? Have you thought about maybe they're going through something? Well, they should talk. Yes, absolutely they should. Marriage is founded on communication. But if they don't, are you going to just throw in the towel? Or are you going to find a way to make things work? Marriage is a lot about dexterity and bending. You got to find a way to make it work. Kind of like limbo, or not limbo, the one where you lean backwards. How low can you go? Maybe that is limbo. Doesn't matter. For a marriage to work, you have to be in it to help your spouse win. Give them a win. Well, often, if you're trying to make it all about, you have to win the arguments, no, that's not going to do anything. Arguments, you're not even going to remember what you argued about. But helping your spouse to have a win, that's different. The stay-at-home spouse doesn't get to leave work. They don't get to come home, and they don't get to take a break. That's not something they get to do. But with that being said, I also want to do a flip side of that. The spouse that has to go and leave the house, that is a very big sacrifice. To have to leave the kids and the spouse is very hard. It always seems like the other person has the easier job. No matter what it is, it's always going to seem like the other person has the easier job. Oh, well, for instance, in a church, right? All the pastor does is he just preaches on Sunday and he doesn't have to do anything. My job's so much harder. How about work? My boss doesn't do anything all day and I have to do all the work. in your marriage. My spouse does nothing. I do the most of the work. Everybody's always going to think that their job is harder than another person. We are egoist. That's just who we are. Um, don't focus on who has the hardest job. Work as a team. This is really kind of the main theme here. Be a team player. Um, but constant complaining and nitpicking, that's not overly helpful. It's not really going to accomplish anything. Um, it, Marriage really isn't about instant results and having a cleaner house, um, or having a better spouse, whatever. It's about remaining faithful and building your marriage foundation, because you aren't always going to have things the way you want. You aren't always going to be attracted to your spouse. You're not always going to be happy with what your spouse does. When you say I do, what you're saying is, I am committing my life to you. That's how it is. Well, that was before I thought, oh, so now you're just going to throw in the towel? That's not going to work very good either. When you get a divorce, it doesn't fix the problem. It causes you to have a bigger character fault that takes a really long time to even be aware of, and then even longer to start dealing with it. And I'm not so sure you can ever get rid of that. It's just builds this rift in your life. It's just hard. So don't wait to respect your spouse until they act how you want. Choose to respect them now. And I hope that was helpful.